Hi, this is FUAD ABASOV, a broker with Right at Home Realty, and this is your monthly real estate statistics.
Higher borrowing costs, continued uncertainty about the economy, Bank of Canada decision-making, and the constrained supply of listings resulted in fewer home sales in August 2023 compared to August 2022. The average selling price remained virtually unchanged over the same period. This comes at a time when Toronto housing inventory is hovering near record lows, in contrast to the 1990s, meaning Ontario will need to ramp up new home construction more than any other province to restore affordability. The GTA's sluggish real estate market saw the second worst August for new home sales in 2 decades. Sales were 63% below the 10-year average, as buyers and developers continued to wait on the sidelines amid uncertainty around the Bank of Canada's rate hikes. The market's softening could be a welcome sign for buyers, who watched housing costs soar through much of the COVID-19 pandemic, only to be handled a quick succession of interest rate hikes as prices began to fall. With sales slowing and new listings returning to more normal levels, demand and supply are continuing to come into better balance. It is worth to note that as housing prices across the city continue to be unaffordable for many would-be homebuyers, an increasing number of buyers are opting to purchase property with family or friends. Demographic trends indicate an increase in housing demand now than 30 years ago, as the population is expected to grow sharply and an increasing number of millennials are entering prime home buying years. This being said, people still buy and sell real estate for reasons outside of interest rates. They're having children, they're changing jobs. Interest rates can impact their spend, but not their motivation to move.
And now, let's take a closer look at detached home sales in Toronto and surrounding areas.
An average selling price of detached home in Toronto in August was $1.63 million, almost the same as it was in August of last year. The amount of sold properties went down by 12%, and the amount of new listings went down by 1.2%. It takes on average 18 days for a detached home to be sold in Toronto nowadays. An average selling price of detached home in Vaughan in August went up by 8% compared to August of last year and is sitting at $1.82 million. The amount of sold properties went down by almost 25%. The amount of new listings went up by 24%. On average, it takes 19 days for a detached home to be sold in Vaughan today. An average selling price of detached home in Richmond Hill in August was $2.17 million, a 17% increase compared to August of last year. The amount of sold properties went down by almost 11%. The amount of new listings has increased by 33%. On average, it takes 25 days for a detached home to be sold in Richmond Hill today. An average selling price of detached home in Mississauga remained unchanged compared to July and is sitting at $1.58 million. Compared to August of last year, prices went up by 3%. The amount of sold properties went down by 14%. The amount of new listings went down by 1.7%. It takes on average 3 weeks for a detached home to be sold in Mississauga today. In Markham, an average selling price of detached home compared to July did not change and is sitting at $1.79 million. Compared to August of last year, prices went up by 3%. The amount of sold properties went down by 18%. The amount of new listings has increased by 10%. On average, it takes 16 days for a detached home to be sold in Markham today. An average selling price of a detached home in Newmarket compared to July went up and is sitting at $1.4 million. Compared to August of last year, prices went up by almost 14%. The amount of sold properties went down by 23%. The amount of new listings went up by 29%. On average, it takes 16 days for a detached home to be sold in Newmarket today. We see an increase of prices in Aurora compared to July. An average selling price is $1.67 million, almost 10% increase compared to August of last year. The amount of sold properties went up by 6.5%. The amount of new listings also went up by 15.8%. it takes on average 12 days for an average home to be sold in Aurora today. Innisfil, an average selling price of detached home is $930,000 in August. Compared to August of last year, prices went down by 3.5%. The amount of sold properties went down by 43%. The amount of new listings also went down by 36%. On average, it takes almost 1 month for a detached home to be sold in Innisfil today. King City, the average selling price of a detached home in August was $3.49 million, a 36% increase compared to August of last year. The amount of sold properties went down by 33%. The amount of new listings went down by 36%. On average, it takes 1 month for a detached home to be sold in King City today. In Bradford, an average selling price of a detached home in August was $1.18 million, similar to what it was in August of last year. The amount of sold properties went down by 52%. The amount of new listings went up slightly by 2%. It takes on average 3 weeks for a detached home to be sold in Bradford today. In Milton, an average selling price of a detached home in August was $1.35 million, 9.5% increase compared to August of last year. The amount of sold properties went down by 17%. The amount of new listings has increased by 14.5%. On average, it takes almost 1 month for a detached home to be sold in Milton today. An average selling price of a detached home in Stoufville in August was $1.56 million, similar to what it was in August of last year. The amount of sold properties went down by 23%. The amount of new listings went down by 9%. On average, it takes almost 3 weeks for a detached home to be sold in Stoufville today. Barrie, average selling price of a detached home is $848,000, an increase of 6% compared to August of last year. The amount of sold properties for the same period of time went down by 45%. The amount of new listings went down by almost 35%. On average, it takes 3 weeks for a detached home to be sold in Barrie today. Looking forward, we know there will be solid demand for housing, both ownership and rental, in the Greater Toronto Area and Greater Golden Horseshoe. Record immigration levels alone will assure this. In the short term, we will likely continue to see some volatility in terms of sales and home prices, as buyers and sellers wait for more certainty on the direction of borrowing costs and the overall economy.
If you'd like to receive your own personalized sales report about home sales in your neighborhood, please call me at 647-801-3401 or email me at sold@fuadhomes.com. Thanks for watching and see you next month.